now. Look at Here we go again. How many times will these lambs rush to slaughter? Well, let's get it over with.
Okay, I'm gonna give this one last try. So what I've been trying to do, if you haven't already clued in, is you see the door here is closed. And I learned about this, there will of course be a link in the description, from Lobos Jr., a streamer of all sorts of games, but he does a lot of Dark Souls streaming if you're unaware. And you'll notice that once we, and take note that this is in fact Lautrec's world. So we're invading Lautrec, he's here with two summons, he's ganking essentially, invaders in Anor Londo. And you notice that the doors here are actually open. That when we're down there they're closed, but when we're up here they're open. And so how it worked for Lobos, and this is one of those jumps where the first few videos you saw I did all in a row a few days ago, but now that I'm trying again, I took a couple days off from trying. Now that I'm trying again, I can't do this jump anymore, seemingly. Alright. So what's supposed to happen is we're supposed to be in a spot where our location does not register for Lautrec or his phantoms. And so the way it worked for Lobos is, again, you can see that the gate is open and there are giant sentinels out there. So what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to hit them, and then they are supposed to take that hit as an act of aggression on behalf of the Sentinels. And maybe what we need to do is ensure that the gate is open and that we can see. Okay, we can see the Sentinels, but yeah, so what's supposed to happen? You're supposed to hit Lautrec, and then him and his buddies are supposed to take that as an act of aggression from the giant Sentinels outside, and then they're supposed to go after them and get their butts kicked. So one of the differences between what Lobos did and the circumstances under which he did it and that which I'm doing it under is that Lobos was in New Game Plus, whereas I am just in, or Lobos was in New Game Plus 2, whereas I'm just in New Game. And so that means that the giant Sentinels won't be strong enough to kill them on their own, presumably, and so that I would have to finish them off. But that's fine, I just want to get them to rush outside after the Sentinels. But for whatever reason, every single time I try it, they run up here. They know exactly where I am and they come after me. In all of the different iterations of this troll attempt that you've seen, I've switched up one or two of the variables every time to see whether it's something, something with my gear. In the previous one, I tried using a short bow and wooden arrows. This one, I'm trying a longbow, unupgraded, and large arrows, because my initial thought was that I was using the Black Bow Ferris plus 10, so that maybe I was just doing too much damage to them, and that was causing them to come up here. And so I went to the opposite extreme in the previous attempt by using wooden arrows with a short bow, unupgraded. And the result was the same. So we're going to try this particular troll one more time. And if it doesn't work, we're going to do a much less satisfying cheese. And I said troll, but I meant cheese. Because you can kind of troll NPCs, but it's more cheese when it's an NPC than it is a troll. So here goes nothing. We'll try this. If it doesn't work, we're going to crystal out one more time and try a much less satisfying and much less elaborate cheese. So here we go. Dag nabbit. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I tried. I failed, but I tried. And you see, there's a Silver Knight Archer there that we can't see. Oh crap.
Rush to slaughter. Well, let's get it over with.
No! Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and welcome back to my casual playthrough of Dark Souls. This is episode 15. It is Tuesday the 25th of August today, on the date of recording, and I hope that all of you are having a fantastic day today. I'm a little bit disappointed. As you just saw, my cheese did not work out. We settled on a cheese that, while it was still a cheese, it wasn't nearly, not even remotely as satisfying as that which I had originally hoped to do. And we almost got killed by the two giant sentinels to boot. So I did promise that we were going to talk about this boss room a little bit. And I have a growing list of comments. How many do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different comments. Probably not going to get to them all today. But what are you doing? Don't you know the princess doesn't like it when the giant sentinels come into... Thank you. Doing good work. Just stay out of here. Thank you. Yeah, so not going to get to all the comments today, of course, as usual, but I do want to at least trim down this list a little bit, because I got a lot of interesting comments that I don't want to just gloss over, and I do want to address them. The problem with a couple of the comments is that the context needs to be right. Just bringing up the comments and discussing them in a vacuum, I guess, works in some cases, but, it's really best when these comments come up organically, and so I have them on hand here so that we can talk about them in that way. But with that aside, yeah, as I explained in the first segment, it just didn't work out. I don't know why. I've left a link in the description to the troll I was trying to emulate, as I mentioned already, so you can go check that out to see what it was I was trying to do. And if there's anyone out there who has any ideas as to why it might not have worked, I'd be interested in hearing them. But yeah, so the Smough Ornstein boss room, we can see here that, and I'm realizing now, when I just said the name Smough, that we forgot a very important room here, so we're going to have to go back and check that out. That these are Silver Knights, and you generally can't see these after the boss fight because they will have been destroyed by either Smough or Ornstein, or Super Smough or Super Ornstein. Here is Lord Gwyn. I was going to say in the flesh, but I guess in the granite? Marble? Stone? I don't know what statues are made of. And Guinevere, Princess of Sunlight. And a third empty podium, which could either be... could have been intended for Gwendolyn, or could have been intended for the Sun's Firstborn, which I suppose could also be Gwendolyn. Many people think that Solaire is the Sun's Firstborn. I'm not entirely sure. I did once believe that, but I don't really know. I'd be interested, as always, to hear, so that we can take a temperature, get a consensus, or see what the consensus is in the comment section about the identity of Solaire, whether or not he is just a plain guy, or whether he was, in fact, the Sun's Firstborn and the God of War who, renounced his godship and, sought out something in the mortal world. But yeah, lots to think about there. This, of course, is Knight Lautrec's corpse. So after being cheesed by myself and, presumably by other players and certainly by Lobos Jr., I suppose he was shamed. This would seem to imply, his corpse being located here would seem to imply a couple things. So one is maybe, and I'm half joking when I say that, but one is maybe that he was ashamed and that he lost his purpose and, went capital H hollow. Which I may have mentioned it in passing or briefly described it, and I'm probably not going to go into it in detail here. But one thing that I see people asking constantly, and I've wondered this myself in the past, is if he's undead, then why do we find a corpse? Wouldn't he just simply, return to the bonfire and then get right back at it? And I think, at least the way that I look at it, and none of this is canonical, this is all my personal musings, is that there's a sort of meta-narrative going on here, whereby if an NPC, or say a real player is playing the game, and they get to, say they get to the Silver Knight Archers, and they just die there over and over again, and they decide, screw this, I don't want to play this game anymore. A completely fair thing to have happen. But in that case, say they dropped a whole bunch, and I think I may have talked about this, but it may also have been in my Bloodborne playthrough. So, time is convoluted, and so is my memory. But yeah, say this player had a bunch of humanity and souls when they died for the last time. They decided that they wanted to, they weren't going to play Dark Souls ever again. So what happens to the humanity and the souls that they don't pick up? The bloodstain they don't pick up? It can, in some cases, turn into a vagrant. This, in my opinion, is the NPC equivalent of that mechanic. Although in this case, it's somewhat strange because, this isn't... Lautrec didn't die here because to whom would you die here? Unless... I believe, in fact... And this was something I was having a comment exchange with Jerks Without Borders in the comment section to the previous episode, because Jerks Without Borders suggested that I may have foregone the possibility of invading Lautrec by killing Smo and Ornstein first. But as you've just seen, that's not true. You can still invade Smo and Ornstein. And in fact, one of the things I pointed out was that Anor Londo is really strange in terms of its PvP zones. And I will, that brings to mind as well another, and I'm not losing my train of thought here, it's just a momentary tangent. Excuse me, but that brings to mind a couple of posts made by Illusory Wall. I'll see if I can track those down and put it in the video description. Because when you're being invaded as a blue, or excuse me, when a Spirit of Vengeance is invading you in Anor Londo, say you're in Dark Anor Londo, and it looked very much, if I recall correctly, from the invasion that we just did, it looked very much that it was Dark Anor Londo, which would suggest that Lautrec had killed shot Guinevere or aggroed Gwendolyn. Although now that I'm thinking about it, those sentinels wouldn't be out there if it were Dark Anor Londo. I don't know. But whatever the case, it may be possible. Certainly you can fight an invading blue in the Smo and Ornstein boss room. When you get invaded, the Smo and Ornstein boss room doesn't have a fog gate up. But now that I'm thinking about it, this doorway here, which leads to the elevator, may have a fog gate. I might need to double check that. I have a Dark Moon Nidus build, as I've mentioned before. And so maybe after I'm done recording this episode, I'll pop on my my Covenant ring and see if I can invade someone to see how far I can get into this boss room. So all that aside, Lautrec seems to have given up. We humiliated him by invading him and taking down his gang squad in a particularly low effort fashion as well. And so just like the player, hypothetical player who quit playing the game, left their bloodstain, and wound up never coming back to the game, some measure of items become transmitted to other players. And so yes, I realized it's not a one-to-one kind of connection, but that's the best I can do in attempting to explain how it is that undead leave corpses like this. That there's a meta-narrative going on which has to do with capital H hollowing being about more than simply the mechanic of hollowing. It also has to do with kind of the meta aspect of the game. But with all that said, we have the Helm of Favor, Embraced, Armor of Favor, Gauntlets of Favor, and Leggings of Favor. And we did also pick up the Firekeeper Soul. Soul of the Ash Maiden, Firekeeper of Firelink Shrine. A Firekeeper's soul is a draw for humanity, and held within their bosoms. Below just a thin layer of skin are swarms of humanity that writhe and squirm. Was the Ash Maiden locked in this dark prison for some transgression, or by her own will? So, very interesting stuff there. And we can see that for the Firekeeper, it doesn't seem to be, like, being a Firekeeper doesn't seem to be the most pleasant vocation in the world. By any measure. We got also humanity and the Ring of Favor and Protection, which we can finally put on. A ring symbolizing the favor and protection of the goddess Fina, known in legend to possess fateful beauty. This ring boosts its wearer's HP, stamina, and yes. The Helm of Favor, Helm of Lautrec the Embraced, representing the goddess Fina's love. During his solitude, he forsook everything, for he believed in the goddess's love for him. And in this one, the goddess's arms wrap around it as if to embrace the wearer. So, as in many places in the Souls games, not just Dark Souls 1, but the Souls games more generally, we're made here to almost kind of maybe feel a little bit sorry for this guy who seemed up until this point to be just a classic mustache twirling classic mustache twirling villain, who really has no redeeming qualities about him. But it seems almost as though he was being manipulated in some way. So yeah, pretty interesting. The armor looks incredible too. It's one of my favorite sets in the game. It is rather heavy though, and I don't think it has the greatest poise. Let's see how much poise we have when we pop the whole set on. Mid-rolling, and yeah, 47 poise. That's really bad for a set this heavy. But yeah, you can see the arms just... It's really quite unsettling, especially on the back. It looks almost like, what kids used to do back in elementary school. You'd pretend that you were, like, embracing someone in the corner and put your own arms around yourself. A very strange memory to have come to mind in that moment, but that's kind of what it looks like. And, in spite of the fact that when fighting him, it looked like it was pretty gold and shiny, it actually looks rather rusted and in very poor shape. So yeah, very cool. We are going to pop on the Ring of Favor and Protection. And I wonder... Yeah, that's a really heavy set. The fact that we can't fast roll. And we have... we purchased a little bit more Twinkling Titanite, did some farming off camera, and upped our level. I think the only thing I increased was the Faith to 14, and I believe I added a second attunement slot as well. And the reason I upped my Faith to 14 will become apparent in a little bit. But first... Oh, that's wonderful. Can we also wear the helmet? No. But still, pretty good. So we're starting to look more and more like Aegon of Astora, as opposed to just Aegon. Do we want to talk about Guinevere? The problem is I've been recording for quite a bit, and we've barely moved from this spot, so maybe I'll save that. Probably a good thing I did save that, because we have a lot of dialogue to get in this episode. Beginning with this. I almost feel guilty returning it because given the item description we just read, that it doesn't seem to be the most pleasant life to live, or certainly not the most pleasant, but it seems like one of the least pleasant ways to live. And we just brought her right back to it. Maybe she was happy having been, taken out of her misery.
Thank you. I am Anastasia of Astora. Now I can continue my duty as a keeper. But I only hope that my impure tongue does not offend. Forgive me. I am impure. My tongue never intended for restoration. Please, if you have any heart, leave me be. I wish not to speak.
So, in just about any other game, returning the Firekeeper soul and restoring Anastasia, giving her tongue back, would probably be regarded as a good thing, full stop. Not in Dark Souls. You're meant seemingly to feel uneasy about the fact that you just restored her to this just awful existence. That, she may have in fact been better off just not existing.
Well, fancy meeting you here. You did much for me up above. I am grateful. I was thinking, the gates, the old fortress. Was that your doing? Yes, I knew it. It seemed like an unlikely coincidence. Well, am I fortunate. This Knight of Katarina thanks you sincerely. Please, take this as a token of my gratitude.
Did not mean to do that. The area of effect, I guess, of the bonfire sit option in Dark Souls 1 is especially large. Looks like he's looking straight at us. You can kind of see... Hey, friend. He's got some nice brown eyes. Don't ask me why I find that so amusing.
There you are. I'll be heading down below shortly. There's nothing worthwhile up above. No worries. Venturing is my life. I'm prepared for the worst.
And I'm just realizing now that I did kind of lose track of my train of thought when speaking about Lautrec. But yeah, basically, the first implication that I was going to discuss is that he would have had to have beaten Ornstein and Smo. I don't believe I mentioned that, but that was one of the main points I wanted to get across. Because otherwise, yeah, we wouldn't have found his corpse there. Because he would have had to have defeated Ornstein and Smo to get up to that point. Why he wound up there, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he was rebuffed by Guinevere's illusion? I don't know.
Oh, hello there. I'm pleased to see you safe. As always, if you provide the materials, I can teach you pyromancy.
think we need to get it up to, I think plus 10 is what triggers Kaylana to show up in Blighttown. First, let's see if there's anything else he has that we want. Okay, we've already purchased all of his equipment. Okay. Or all of his spells, rather. So we would need probably something close to 50,000 in order to... Okay.
My teacher, whom I imagine still resides in the Great Swamp, had a funny way of putting it. He said that pyromancy is the ultimate fantasy. We are born into dark and warmed by fire, but this fire we cannot touch. Those whose fascination with fire persists learn to hold it in their own hand. He rather had a way with words, the old withering frog. In this land, pyromancers earn a certain respect. The Witch of Izalith, one of the legendary lords, is the godmother of pyromancy. So the day I became undead, I was ecstatic. I felt as if I'd been chosen to attune myself to the ancient arts. Of course, it wasn't all that romantic in the end. A pyromancer's flame is a part of his own body. The flame, please.
Pretty sure we got that dialogue already, so my apologies for skipping it if you missed it before, but...
Goodbye then. Come back if you find anything new.
I certainly will. Don't you dare go hollow, friend. I don't like you. Your stupid bowl cut.
Ah, oh, you. Have you seen Milady? Oh, blast, where might she be? And would she be safe? Oh, I'm sorry. Miracles, was it? Sometimes I lose myself. Pay me no mind.
I love that you can hear Frampt sleeping. I would like to get a copy of Force. Because now we have enough. We have enough faith to be able to use it. Oh, we haven't read Smo. Soul of Smo, the Executioner, who guards the cathedral in the Forsaken city of Anor Londo. And there's more lore that we can get when we go speak to Dornhall of Xena. But we've been doing enough walking around and getting dialogue in this episode, so I think I'll just save that for next time. We should probably place the Lordvessel. Yeah, let's do that.
No, I'm fine. Well and wide awake. Do not treat me like an old withering snake.
We should stop behaving like one then. Just in case you're curious, another illusory wall investigation found that no matter how much damage you do, you cannot kill Kingseeker Frampt. Don't know if there is any lore significance to that, or if that's purely, a gameplay thing to ensure that, you can't kill him. But for what it's worth, if the serpents are imperfect dragons, that could potentially suggest that they're immortal. That they somehow attained the immortality of the dragons, but just otherwise they're imperfect dragons. But the fact that they're imperfect dragons could mean that even though they don't appear to have any scales of immortality. Okay, first comment, actually, and right on, just kind of lending... What am I saying? I'm trying to find the comment here. So yeah, perfect context, just as I was saying earlier in the episode, that these comments are the best to cover when the context calls for it. And so in this case, the Azure End, it was in a comment about Snuggly the Crow, And if Snuggly the Crow can talk, it's too bad that the larger crow that carries us from Firelink to the Undead Asylum and vice versa, it's too bad that crow doesn't talk, because given the amount of things that this crow here hears, if indeed this is the same crow, it must have some pretty juicy gossip. But the point of the comment wasn't really that. It was, or the reason why I'm bringing it up is this last line here, where the Azor End says, "I normally assume everyone in this place doesn't know anything, is lying or telling half-truths, especially the two writhing tongues of those lizards we meet." Yeah, that's, I guess I would probably, my view would be a little bit, I would temper that a bit, to say that no one in this game knows everything. Every single person you talk to has their own motivations, has their own situated knowledge of the world around them, and has their own worldview and their own cultural backgrounds, especially considering the diversity of nations from which all of these NPCs originated. They all are individuals in the best possible sense from a game design perspective, because when you hear things from people, you always have to be skeptical of it. You can never take anything anyone says for granted, because there are always motivations involved. There's always imperfect information. Yeah, there's always values, no matter what. So, very interesting. And even the notion of value neutrality. So the Western idea of objectivity, which itself rests on the notion that that neutrality in terms of values is the only way to be objective, and that objectivity is the most important thing in the world when making decisions. But even the idea of being neutral with your values is a culturally specific value. The valorization of value neutrality is not itself neutral, if that makes any sense. If not, I'd be glad to explain. But yeah, thank you, Azuren, for that comment.
Heavens, you have done it. You have retrieved the Lordvessel. After 1,000 years, it is you. It is really you. Forgive me. I really should calm down. Now, let us take that vessel on a journey. I assume that you are ready. Now, be still. Successor of Lord Gwyn. Now, place the Lordvessel on the altar.
So once again, this thing here, he doesn't say that if you're to be the successor to Lord Gwyn, that you're essentially sacrificing yourself to the flames. You are incinerating yourself. You are offering your soul to the kiln to be incinerated. So when he says the successor to Lord Gwyn, he doesn't mean that you're going to be the Lord of Sunlight and that you're going to rule over Lordran from Anor Londo. He means you're the successor not to Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight, but to Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. And those are two very, very different things. So it's not that he's lying, but he's selectively withholding information. And what if we don't want to place the Lordvessel? What then?
What is it? Place the Lordvessel on the altar. No reason for pause at this point.
No reason for pause at this point. So he's essentially whittled down our options. He's portraying it as though we have no other alternative, when in fact we do at least have one other alternative, although at this point, since we've already spoken with Frampt, that alternative is unavailable to us. But yeah, just something very interesting to note. And we'll obviously be talking more about the Firelink altar at a later date. But for now, let's place the Lordvessel. Crap. I just realized that we didn't read the item description. But thanks to the Dark Souls wiki.wiki, in the middle of that cutscene I loaded up the page for that. And the item description reads, Lordvessel bestowed upon the chosen undead, who is destined to succeed Lord Gwyn. The chosen undead is granted the art of warping between bonfires. To open the final door, place this vessel on the Firelink altar and fill it with powerful souls. And of course the Lordvessel now will serve as a bonfire. So pretty cool. So now he's going to lay out the rest of... He's going to lay out what we need to do. And once again, the game offering essentially all that you need to know, at least to finish the base game, without really, handing it to you on a silver platter. You still have to work for it, but pretty much all the information you need is there.
Very well. As King Seeker, I shall now instruct you, the Lord's successor, in your next task. To achieve your fate, fill the vessel with powerful souls, commensurate to the great soul of Gwyn. Scarce few possess such brilliant souls. Grave Lord Nito, the Witch of Izalith, the 4 kings of New Londo, who inherited the shards of Gwyn's soul, and Lord Gwyn's former confidant, Seath the Scaleless. All of their souls are required to satiate the Lordvessel. Are you ready? Then we shall return. Stay still for a moment.
Thanks, Frampt.
I am pleased to see you well.
So something
Very well. Then stay still for a moment.
I did not mean to do that. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I did cover that. When I said that he will give you very few souls for anything that's associated with Seath the Scaleless.
Is it?
Let's go to feed item. So if you look at the number of souls he gives you for each item, and for some reason he'll give you 200 souls for a piece of, literally a piece of shit. But he'll only give you 50 souls for a black firebomb. So there's nothing really here that will give us one of those clues. You see he really likes Kalag, 10,000 souls. He really likes Moonlight Butterfly. I think if you use the Moonlight Butterfly soul, you only get 1,500. But if you sell it to him, you get 8,000. There you go. He doesn't like Smo. Why that is? Not sure, but he doesn't like Smo. He'll only give you 1 soul for the soul of Smo. So interesting. And so we can start to maybe get an idea, if we just come back here every now and then, depending on what equipment we have, we can get an idea of who it is that he values and who it is that he doesn't. Smo is apparently not one of the people he values. He also doesn't like anything seemingly associated with crystal, so perhaps extending to his disdain for Seath the Scaleless.
The beings who possess these souls have outlived their usefulness, or have chosen the path of the wicked. As the primordial serpent, I implore you to defeat them and claim their souls. Let there be no guilt. Let there be no vacillation.
In other words, don't think, just do. Just do what I'm telling you to do, don't think about it.
The beings who possess...
Alright, screw you, Frampt. Okay, I do want to fight something, because we spent this entire episode just talking. But what to fight? What to fight? We will go to Anor Londo. We will return there and check out Smo's room and talk a little bit about Havel and Havel's room. But the first thing I wanted to do after having acquired the Lordvessel is I wanted to drain the water from New Londo. And the reason for that is quite simply to be able to farm Titanite chunks. And I know we haven't even spoken to... Is it Rickert? Rickert of Vinheim? Or Griggs? No, Griggs is Master Logan's fanboy. Oh, we should probably equip a few transient curses. And so I had toyed around with the possibility of coming here before having acquired the Lordvessel, but of course, in order to drain New Londo without the Lordvessel, you do have to kill Ingward. And Ingward isn't the most squeaky clean of individuals in Lordran, but I did want to at least get his dialogue so we can talk about it and talk to him. So we are going to really quickly, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about here, but just in the interest of time, because I'm already at 50 minutes in my recording, and that's not including the... Oh, and by the way, there's another 2 transient curses there. But yeah, in the interest of time, I do want to try and keep all the episodes under an hour, given what happened when we were in Sen's Fortress, although I've not had any other problems. I've not had a single crash since I spent those 2 days basically just troubleshooting everything with my computer, changing a few settings. I don't believe the ghosts can be poisoned. Although, they won't survive long enough to find out, unfortunately. But yeah, this place, just an absolute shit show when the first couple of times I came down here. And as I explained, I believe it was likely in episode 2 or maybe episode 3. But yeah, I had no idea what the transient curses were, what they were for. And so I just kept walking onto that bridge at the beginning of the area. And simply just running at, and I don't know what I expected to change. People say that, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, to which I would say, no, that's not the definition of insanity. And also second, that the person to whom that quotation is most often attributed is Albert Einstein, and in fact Albert Einstein never said that. But yeah, if you're gonna go by the, you know, problematic and, you know, really false definition of insanity, I was clearly going insane at that point. And it's really rather, and maybe this is part of the reason I enjoy New Londo so much now, is that it's one of those areas where, in contrast to the other areas I discussed, where my current interactions with them are still influenced in a negative way by how much I struggled here initially, this place is actually the inverse. I actually enjoy this place more, knowing that I once struggled here mightily, and that now, and especially when you're, I guess we're not incredibly over-leveled anymore for this point of the game, but we're still at least a little bit over-leveled. But now I can, you know, it's not exactly a cakewalk, but I can get through here generally with very few problems. And this spot would essentially be your friend if you were going to try and unflood. I was waiting for you, ladies. Thank you. If you're going to try and unflood New Londo before getting the Lordvessel, you can just snipe Ingward with your bow and arrow here. You can poison him, you can use pretty much whenever, because after you aggro him, he should start running at you from that position he's standing right now, which should allow you to just pelt him with arrows right in the face, and he'll be fine. Or he'll be fine. He'll be dead, rather. And yeah, so this place just complete disaster first few times through. And watch, now that I'm talking all confidently, I'm gonna get my ass kicked here. Oh yeah, and I should have my transient curses out, because this is generally about the point where it runs out. Stop it. Okay, I do want to get to one more comment, actually. And the comment was from a new viewer / commenter, Sir Raven, who said, thank you for this video. This is on the previous episode. Just started watching the playthrough. Sorry that I'm late. No problem. You never have to apologize for that. But I do have a question. Have you ever played Star Wars: The Old Republic? I got very, very giddy when I first read that message, because I thought that you had written Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. To which I would have said, yes, I played the first one on the original Xbox. Where the... Do you have lightning attacks? Oh. Transient Curse is out. Does she shoot lightning from her baby? Okay, that's something I've never seen before. And that completely took me off guard and almost got me killed. Wow, that was weird. Yeah, so I thought the comment initially was referencing Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox. And yeah, I was about to get extremely excited and say, yes, I played the shit out of that game, and I played the shit out of the second one, Knights of the Old Republic 2, but never, unfortunately, have I played, well, I don't want to say unfortunately, but I've never played Knights of the Old, or what is it called specifically? Star Wars... The Old Republic, so not Knights of the Old Republic, just the Old Republic. No, I have not. The closest thing I've ever played to an MMO would probably be Destiny, and I played Destiny for about 2.5 months, until I stopped and I realized I am not actually playing this game because I'm having any fun. I'm just playing this game because I need to grind for things. And as soon as I realized that, I stopped playing. And there was also the really problematic manner with which the community was managed, in my opinion, in a very obscurantist and misleading and just morally reprehensible manner. But that's a can of worms, and we're almost at an hour in my recording. So no, I have not played the Old Republic, but I'm curious as to why it is that you asked that question. So if you want to elaborate a little bit more, then just let me know, and maybe if you think I would really enjoy it, then I'd be interested in hearing why. I don't have a PC that's capable of playing any games that are, within the last 5 years or so. So if it's a PC only, I don't think that's even a possibility. But if it is a PS4, and if you make a good enough case, maybe, potentially. But yeah, I spend too much time playing Dark Souls as it is that I don't think I would have the time to add an MMO to that list. But yeah, thank you for your comment and your question, and I'm interested to hear, the reason why you asked the question. Hello, Ingward.
Well, this is a surprise. I get few visitors, save for ghosts. You have the Lordvessel. Very impressive. I know exactly what your intentions are. You seek the 4 kings whom I guard over. This is the key to the seal. The 4 kings slumber in the deepest chamber of the ruins. Use this key to break the seal and open the floodgates. Oh, and do not forget, the dark wraiths reside in a dark void called the Abyss. But the Abyss is no place for ordinary mortals. Although, long ago, the knight Artorias traversed the Abyss. If you can find him and learn from him, the Abyss may prove surmountable.
So once again, NPC situatedness. He seems to think that Artorias traversed the Abyss. He seems to think that Artorias is still alive. He's not necessarily lying, but he's telling you what he thinks he knows. And from his perspective, I imagine he's been down here for a very, very long time. And at the time that he came down here to, essentially Noah's Ark the entire town, Artorias may well have been alive and well and on his way to Ulasil to fight back the Abyss. So he's not necessarily lying, but he's not telling you, what actually happened.
Hello there. What is it? The key to the seal is now in your hands. I will help you in any way possible.
And so yeah, if you don't have the Lordvessel, he won't give you the key to the seal. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that, but it's worth repeating. He sells more transient curses and also resist curse. Sorcery of the red-robed Remedition, Ingward. Guardian of the seal in New Londo, sacrifice humanity to undo curse. Abhorrent curses eat away at the core of one's very existence, and cleansing oneself of curses is no easy task indeed.
New Londo was sacrificed to contain the Dark Wraiths. Mark my words, the Dark Wraiths are the enemies of man and any living thing that has a soul. They were never meant to roam again. New Londo was...
So we're not going to get into that today, but I will say that I'm now remembering one of the items that we probably should have gotten from Upper Blighttown that I'll probably just go get off camera so that we can have access to it, and that is the sealer set. So the armor set that he's wearing, because without it, it can be hard to actually... Oh, leave me alone, ghost, please. Where am I rolling? Thank you. Because without it, it can be difficult to kind of ascertain who he is and what his motivations are beyond what it is that he's telling us. So I'm going to try and remember to do that. But first, I need to remember how to get over to this soul. We did it! Yes, hello, ghost. How you doing? Leave me alone, please. I just want to unflood New Londo. I'm undoing that which turned you into a ghost. Shouldn't you be happy about that? Although I guess I can see their position. They don't want any further meddling in their affairs. But yeah, apparently this was once a, you know, bright and vibrant place where culture flourished. And now it is just a wasteland. And another thing worth mentioning is that the original boss of this area, or at least a mini-boss before the main boss, its name was Undead King Jareel. Some more cut content. There's a lot of cut content from Dark Souls 1. And I wonder whether it's that there was more cut content for Dark Souls 1, or whether it's that the game's been out long enough where we've learned about all of the cut content. Whereas we may have yet to, you know, even scratch the surface of Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne. But who knows? But yeah, the original boss, or at least, if I recall correctly, I'm going to try and find a video about it, because the original video was by Hellkite Drake, whose YouTube channel has been deactivated for understandable reasons. And so I will try to find a video out there somewhere, but apparently Ingward, rather than deciding on whether or not to give you the key to the seal based on whether you have the Lordvessel, he was originally going to, I guess, put you through a trial by facing you again, you know, pitting you against Undead King Jareel. And if you were to defeat them, Jareel, then you would get the key to the seal, and you'd have an opportunity to go fight the four kings. Either that, or, and that's how I remember it, but it could also just be that Undead King Jareel was supposed to be the boss for this area, and that the four kings were just kind of added in. But I can't remember. Alright, well, that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.